The explosion would happen in exactly 47 minutes and 23 seconds. Matthias Kellerman knew this because he had personally wound the clock mechanism that would trigger it, just like he had done for 17 other timed assassinations across Colorado territory. But as he watched Judge Harrison's carriage approach the courthouse, Matthias realized that this time, he might have made a terrible mistake. But to understand how a humble clock repairman became the most precise killer in the American West, we need to go back to where it all started. Back to a winter morning in 1873, when young Matthias first learned that some timepieces are designed not to measure hours and minutes, but to count down to moments when lives end forever, and some repairs are worth more than all the silver in Colorado territory. Matthias Kellerman had arrived in Silverton, Colorado territory, in the winter of 1873 as a 34-year-old former Union Army demolitions expert, carrying with him specialized knowledge of explosives and precision timing mechanisms that he had learned during his service in the siege operations of the Civil War. He was a man of medium height, with prematurely gray hair and intelligent brown eyes behind wire-rimmed spectacles, possessing the kind of methodical temperament and steady hands that made him equally skilled at repairing delicate clockwork and assembling deadly bombs. Silverton in 1873 was experiencing the height of the Colorado silver boom, as the discovery of massive ore deposits in the San Juan Mountains had attracted mining companies, speculators, and fortune seekers from around the world who were competing for control of claims worth millions of dollars. The competition for mineral rights was so intense that it had evolved into a form of economic warfare involving bribery, fraud, sabotage, and increasingly, the systematic elimination of people who stood in the way of certain mining interests. The apparent reason for Matthias's arrival in Silverton was to establish himself as a clockmaker and watch repair specialist serving the growing population of wealthy mine owners, railroad executives, and territorial officials who needed reliable timepieces to coordinate the complex business operations that were transforming the Colorado mountains from wilderness into industrial centers. His workshop, located on Main Street between the Miners Bank and the Silver Dollar Saloon, quickly became known throughout the territory for the precision and reliability of his repair work. But Matthias's true profession was far more dangerous and infinitely more lucrative than clock repair. He was an assassin whose specialty was creating timed explosive devices that could eliminate targets with clockwork precision while providing him with perfect alibis. His method was both ingenious and virtually undetectable. He would modify the internal mechanisms of clocks and watches to serve as timing devices for bombs, ensuring that explosions would occur at precisely predetermined moments, when he would be far from the scene and surrounded by witnesses. The silver boom that had brought prosperity to Silverton had also attracted criminal organizations and corrupt business interests who were willing to use violence to gain control of valuable mining claims and eliminate competition. These groups needed someone who could provide assassination services with the kind of precision and reliability that would allow them to coordinate complex schemes involving multiple eliminations across wide geographic areas. Matthias's background in military demolitions and his cover as a respectable clockmaker made him the perfect candidate for this deadly work. Matthias's first assassination contract came from the Consolidated Mining Syndicate, a criminal organization that controlled several major silver mines in the San Juan Mountains through a combination of legitimate business operations and illegal activities, including claim jumping, document forgery, and the elimination of claim holders who refused to sell their properties. The syndicate needed to eliminate Judge William Harrison, a territorial judge whose honest interpretation of mining law was interfering with their efforts to acquire claims through fraudulent legal proceedings. The operation that Matthias designed for Judge Harrison's assassination demonstrated the sophistication of his timing-based murder methods. Rather than simply planting a bomb in the courthouse, he created a complex system that would use the building's own clock tower as the trigger mechanism for an explosion that would occur at a precisely predetermined time when the judge would be in his chambers reviewing case files. Matthias's method involved modifying the courthouse clock's striking mechanism to create an electrical contact that would complete a circuit connected to dynamite charges hidden in the building's basement. The modification was so subtle that the clock continued to function normally in all other respects, chiming the hours as usual while secretly counting down to the moment when Judge Harrison would die. The timing system that Matthias created was remarkably precise. The electrical contact would be triggered when the clock's hour hand reached exactly 3:15 p.m., a time that Matthias had chosen based on careful observation of Judge Harrison's daily routine. The judge invariably spent the period from 3 to 4 p.m. in his chambers, working alone on case reviews and legal correspondence, making it virtually certain that he would be in the building when the explosion occurred. But Matthias's system included additional refinements that made it even more deadly and undetectable. The dynamite charges were positioned to cause maximum damage to the judge's chambers while minimizing harm to other parts of the courthouse, creating the appearance that the explosion had been caused by an accidental gas leak or similar mishap. The modified clock mechanism would be destroyed in the explosion, eliminating evidence of tampering. Most importantly, Matthias's alibi was unshakable. At 3:15 p.m. on the day of the assassination, he would be in his workshop on Main Street, surrounded by customers and witnesses, working on routine clock repairs that would demonstrate his presence far from the courthouse. The explosion would appear to be a tragic accident that had occurred while the territory's most skilled clockmaker was visibly engaged in his normal business activities. The assassination of Judge Harrison was executed exactly as Matthias had planned. At 3:15 p.m. on March 18, 1874, the modified courthouse clock completed its deadly circuit, triggering an explosion that completely destroyed the judge's chambers and killed Harrison instantly. The blast was so powerful that it shattered windows throughout Silverton and could be heard from miles away, but the structural damage was contained to the specific area that Matthias had targeted. The investigation that followed Judge Harrison's death concluded that the explosion had been caused by a buildup of gas from the building's heating system, exactly as Matthias had intended. The destroyed clock mechanism provided no evidence of modification, and Matthias's presence in his workshop during the explosion was confirmed by multiple witnesses. The assassination appeared to be a tragic accident that had removed one of the syndicate's primary obstacles to their illegal mining operations. The success of the Harrison assassination established Matthias's reputation among Colorado Territory's criminal organizations as a specialist who could provide assassination services with unprecedented precision and reliability. Over the following months, he received contracts from mining companies, railroad corporations, and territorial politicians who needed to eliminate rivals, witnesses, and law enforcement officials who were interfering with their illegal activities. Each assassination that Matthias conducted followed the same basic pattern: careful observation of the target's routine, modification of a timepiece that would serve as a trigger mechanism, placement of explosive charges in locations where the target would be at predetermined times, and establishment of ironclad alibis that would place him far from the scene when the explosions occurred. His methods were so consistent and so effective that he was able to carry out multiple assassinations without arousing suspicion from territorial law enforcement. The scope of Matthias's assassination network was remarkable. Between 1874 and 1876, he was responsible for 18 separate assassinations throughout Colorado Territory and neighboring regions. His victims included territorial judges, federal land commissioners, honest sheriffs, mining claim holders, railroad executives, and various witnesses whose testimony could have exposed criminal activities. Each death appeared to be an accident, and no connections were drawn between the separate incidents. Matthias's most sophisticated operation involved the coordinated assassination of 3 federal land commissioners who were investigating fraudulent mining claims throughout the territory. The commissioners were scheduled to meet in Denver to compare their findings and prepare a comprehensive report that would expose systematic corruption in the Territorial Land Office. Mathias was contracted to eliminate all 3 men before they could complete their investigation. The challenge of coordinating 3 simultaneous assassinations across different locations required Mathias to create an interconnected timing system that would ensure all 3 explosions occurred at exactly the same moment. He modified clocks in each commissioner's hotel room to serve as trigger mechanisms for bombs that would explode at precisely 2:30 a.m., a time when the men would be sleeping and the hotels would have minimal staff present to witness the explosions. The coordination system that Mathias developed for this operation demonstrated his mastery of precision timing technology. He synchronized the 3 hotel clocks using astronomical observations and mathematical calculations that ensured they would maintain identical time despite being in different locations. The explosive charges were calibrated to create maximum damage to the commissioners' rooms while appearing to be gas explosions or similar accidents. The triple assassination was executed flawlessly on the night of September 12, 1875. At exactly 2:30 a.m., explosions occurred simultaneously at hotels in Denver, Colorado Springs, and Pueblo, killing all 3 federal commissioners and destroying their investigation materials. The timing was so precise that territorial newspapers reported the incidents as a series of tragic coincidences involving faulty gas systems in multiple hotels. But the success of the coordinated assassinations marked the beginning of a new phase in Mathias's career that would ultimately lead to his downfall. The simultaneous explosions had attracted the attention of federal investigators who began to suspect that the deaths were not accidental. More importantly, the increasing frequency of mysterious explosions throughout Colorado Territory had begun to create patterns that suggested systematic rather than random occurrences. Federal Marshal James McBride was assigned to investigate the suspicious deaths, bringing with him experience in detecting sophisticated criminal conspiracies and specialized knowledge of explosive devices gained during his own military service. McBride's investigation methods were thorough and systematic, focusing on identifying connections between the various incidents that had occurred throughout the territory. McBride's breakthrough came when he realized that many of the explosion sites contained damaged timepieces that showed evidence of unusual modifications. While the modifications had been largely destroyed in the explosions, careful examination of the remnants revealed patterns that suggested deliberate tampering rather than accidental damage. More importantly, McBride noticed that several of the modified timepieces had been repaired by the same clockmaker, Mathias Kellerman of Silverton. The investigation of Mathias's workshop required careful planning, since McBride needed to gather evidence without alerting the suspected assassin to the investigation. Working with territorial law enforcement officials, McBride arranged for surveillance of Mathias's activities while federal agents conducted discreet inquiries about his background and business practices. The surveillance revealed that Mathias's clockmaking business was indeed legitimate and that he was genuinely skilled at repairing timepieces. But McBride also noticed unusual patterns in Mathias's customer base and work schedule. Many of his customers were prominent territorial officials, mining executives, and other individuals who might be targets for assassination. More suspiciously, Mathias often made house calls to repair clocks in specific buildings shortly before mysterious explosions occurred in those same locations. But the evidence that finally convinced McBride that Mathias was responsible for the assassinations came from an unexpected source, Mathias's own conscience. The clockmaker had been struggling with the psychological burden of his deadly work, and the increasing frequency of his assassinations had begun to affect his mental stability. The death of Judge Harrison had particularly troubled him, since Harrison had been known as an honest and decent man whose only crime was interfering with criminal activities. Matthias's internal conflict reached a crisis point when he received a contract to assassinate Mayor Thomas Patterson of Silverton. Patterson was a popular and honest official whose efforts to clean up municipal government had made him a target for corrupt business interests. The contract specified that Patterson should be eliminated during a town council meeting that was scheduled to address municipal corruption, ensuring that his death would serve as a warning to other honest officials. The Mayor Patterson contract forced Matthias to confront the reality that his assassination work was not just eliminating corrupt officials and criminal rivals, but was also being used to silence honest people who were trying to serve the public interest. Patterson had a wife and 3 young children, and his death would not only eliminate a good man, but would also destroy an innocent family. As Matthias prepared the timing device that would kill Mayor Patterson, he found himself unable to complete the modification. For the first time in his career as an assassin, his conscience overcame his professional obligations. Instead of creating a bomb trigger, he deliberately sabotaged the clock mechanism so that it would fail to function at the critical moment, ensuring that the explosion would not occur when Patterson was present. But Matthias's decision to spare Mayor Patterson created a new set of problems. The syndicate representatives who had contracted for the assassination expected results, and the failure of the bombing would alert them that something had gone wrong with their precision killing system. Matthias realized that his refusal to complete the Patterson assassination had probably signed his own death warrant. The confrontation that Matthias had been dreading came on the morning when Judge Harrison's carriage approached the courthouse for what was supposed to be the final time. As Matthias watched the carriage through his workshop window, knowing that the courthouse clock was counting down to an explosion that would kill an innocent man, he realized that he had reached a moral crossroads that would determine the rest of his life. But instead of Judge Harrison, the carriage contained Federal Marshal McBride and 3 deputy marshals who had come to arrest Matthias for his role in the assassination conspiracy. McBride had finally gathered enough evidence to prove Matthias's guilt, including testimony from syndicate members who had been arrested in connection with other criminal activities. The arrest of Matthias Kellerman ended one of the most sophisticated assassination operations in the history of the American West. The evidence seized from his workshop included detailed records of his timing systems, correspondence with criminal organizations, and physical evidence of bomb modification techniques that had been used in multiple assassinations throughout Colorado territory. The trial that followed Matthias's arrest provided territorial authorities with comprehensive evidence of the criminal conspiracy that had been operating throughout the Colorado mining region. Matthias's testimony, given in exchange for a life sentence rather than execution, led to the arrests of dozens of corrupt officials, mining executives, and criminal organization members who had been using assassination to advance their illegal business interests. But perhaps the most significant aspect of Matthias's case was its impact on law enforcement methods throughout the Western territories. His timing-based assassination techniques had been so sophisticated that they had required new investigative approaches and specialized expertise to detect. Federal law enforcement agencies developed new procedures for investigating suspicious explosions and identifying evidence of timing device modifications. The precision timing systems that Matthias had created for his assassination work also attracted the attention of legitimate engineers and inventors who recognized the potential applications of his techniques for industrial and scientific purposes. Several of his timing mechanisms were studied by territorial engineers who were working on mining and railroad projects that required precise coordination of explosive operations for construction purposes. Matthias himself served 15 years in territorial prison before being released in 1891. His experiences as an assassin had profoundly changed his perspective on violence and morality, and he spent his remaining years working as a legitimate clockmaker in a small town in New Mexico territory, using his skills to repair timepieces for farmers and ranchers who needed reliable timekeeping for agricultural operations. The clocks that Matthias repaired during his later years were known for their exceptional accuracy and reliability, characteristics that reflected his mastery of precision timing technology. But these timepieces served only peaceful purposes, helping families coordinate daily activities and communities schedule important events. The man who had once used clockwork to count down to death had learned to use the same skills to help people make the most of the time they had been given. The legacy of Matthias Kellerman's assassination career extended far beyond his individual crimes. His methods had demonstrated how advanced technical skills could be applied to criminal purposes, while his eventual confession and cooperation with authorities had provided law enforcement with new tools for fighting sophisticated criminal organizations. His story became a cautionary tale about the dangers of allowing technical expertise to be used without moral guidance. His modified timepieces have been instruments of death disguised as helpful household items, but they had also been engineering marvels that pushed the boundaries of what was possible with 19th century technology. If you enjoyed this incredible true story of precision engineering turned to deadly purposes, subscribe to our channel for more amazing tales of ordinary people who accomplished extraordinary things in the American frontier. In the comments below, let us know what you think about Matthias's methods. Was he a skilled craftsman corrupted by criminal opportunities, or simply a cold-blooded killer who used his technical abilities to disguise his crimes? Click on the video appearing on your screen now to discover another shocking story of hidden secrets from the untamed West.